Assalamualaikum. Welcome back, everybody. We've got our full bellies, so hopefully we can stay alert as we continue on. Sometimes, so we're going to move into the community activist portion of the program, and so I know a lot of them are in there right now, but I learned from Brother Fred Hampton. He said, politics is war without bloodshed, and war is politics with bloodshed, and it's all politics and it's all activism. And I say that to say that people that are community activists are soldiers. They are fighting a fight. It is a real fight. They are on the front line. Their lives can be in danger, even if they have no weapons in their hand. Because of their voice, they become dangerous to the system. And people that especially people that the system we're getting ready to bring up, when you're the name and you're the face, you become the target and you become a problem for people that don't want things to change. So it's very important to have those people. The everyday soldiers are important, but there's always a leader. There's always somebody that can help us get there, that lead the way and take the bullets, so to speak, figuratively and unfortunately literally. Those people have to do it. So it's I'm always impressed. I always have admiration for people who take the lead. And leading others is not an easy task. Some people, it may look easy. You see these names, all the great leaders we ever heard, from Malcolm to Huey or whatever, and they look like, they're charismatic, but it's a lot of work. It's a lot of strain. There's a lot that goes on in their personal lives, or part of their personal life they give up to do the work for the people. So it is, I can't overstate how much and how important it is to have people like the sister in the community. So without further ado, I'm going to bring up Nakia Tober. It says community activist. Do you have an organization or anything you want to mention?
Sure.
Okay.
Would you like me to share it?
Yeah, come on up and you share it in there. I didn't know if you want to be introduced as the head of the organization or not, or just a community activist.
I appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you, Mother. Good afternoon. May peace be unto you all. My name is Nakia Tober, as was stated, and I am non-Muslim. I come from a long history of Christian women who are very strong and vocal. But I appreciate that you all have welcomed myself and my sons into your sacred space with such love and with such peace. And we are learning a lot. And as we rode here from Virginia Beach, I talked to my sons about this experience being something different for them. And their older sister was on the telephone, and she said, what are you all looking forward to? And they said, just being exposed to new learning experiences and gaining what we can from being in this place. So thank you all for allowing me. So my name is Nakia Tober. I want to give you a little bit of background about myself so that it makes sense that I'm the one standing up handling this huge topic. I go back to being a young girl growing up in Norfolk. I grew up in a neighborhood called Bowling Park. If any of you are familiar with that, the community was named after Richard Bowling. He was a very popular Baptist pastor and speaker. My earliest days in this topic that I'm going to share with you came from me being a young girl in elementary school. I was an avid reader, like my brother, the librarian. I couldn't go outside before I read the encyclopedia. There were things I had to do. I was raised in a household with my grandparents, and there were certain things that I had to do before I could go outside and I could play. And at that time, I didn't value that. But it taught me a lot of the values that I possess today and have shared with my 4 children. So there was an instance when we had a Black History Month contest. And, I wrote about Martin Luther King. At that time, we weren't exposed to too many other figures. And my essay was not accepted. And I didn't understand why. Because I made all A's. And so I was heartbroken. I went home to my mom. I was crying. I said, they're not accepting my essay. This was my first experience with advocacy and activism. Because my mother said, well, no, I read your essay. This is a very good essay. We are going to fight to find out why your essay was not accepted. And when we went back to school and we spoke with the teacher, she said, well, I didn't like her penmanship. the writing wasn't good enough to have been accepted. And so my mother said, okay, well, I'll go talk to the principal. And we went and talked to the principal. And what we found out, and my mother talking to the principal, was that my essay was not the only one that was not accepted. But there were a number of black girls whose essays were not accepted. And I watched my mother and my aunts come up to the school every single day and go to the office until all of our essays were accepted. I went on to win the competition on the national level, but it was the first time I said, I don't like what it feels like to be mistreated. I don't like what it feels like, because I was a little girl, so I'm trusting the adults around me. I don't like what it feels like to not have a voice. That was troublesome for me, even as a little girl. And so at that point, I was in the 2nd grade, and I remember there were people in my class who would be picked on for different things, because maybe we didn't understand how they spoke, or how they articulated their feelings, or how they dressed, or how they smelled. And those people, this is before we made bullying a popular term, but those people would be treated differently, and I didn't like that. And so I was a little thing, but I was feisty, and I would speak up for the people around me. And I gained that reputation as I got older. Living in the community like Bowling Park, we didn't really have access. A lot of people didn't have access to stores. Like, we can go to a Walmart today or to a Food Lion, but fortunately we did have a vehicle, but for a lot of the people I grew up with, there was no transportation. So we relied on those corner markets. And so at that time when I was growing up, you could go as a 10-year-old and buy cigarettes and beer. And my grandfather would send me to the corner market. It was Martell. So if anyone is familiar with the history of Norfolk, Herbert Collins, who once served on our Norfolk City Council, he would allow us to come. He would allow my grandfather to almost create a tab when we didn't have enough money to make the purchases. But his store was limited to what could be purchased. And so sometimes I had to go a little further and cross Princess Anne Road, right, to Spartan Market. And the one day my grandmother said, okay, you're old enough to go to Spartan Market. I went in that store and I was outraged. I saw fruit that was rotten. I saw vegetables that should not be consumed by humans. I was reading the expiration dates on the items in this store, and I refused to make a purchase. And I went back home, and my grandmother said, where are my items? I said, I didn't purchase anything from that store because the food is not good for us to eat. And my grandmother said, well, Gramps won't be here till later. I need you to go back to, I'm not going to that store. Come on now, you did not stand up to your grandma like that back in that time, but she listened. And a few people from my court got cardboard boxes, and we wrote in crayon, do not shop here. This food is not healthy. Now, we didn't get the store closed, but what we did do was bring some awareness to the community. And there were people in my community who began gardens. So my grandfather was one, and so in each court, there was someone assigned to develop a garden so that we could talk to our residents in our neighborhood about what healthy food looks like, about having the power to grow your own food so you don't have to rely on the corner market who doesn't really care about your well-being or your health. So as an educator, I entered the school system, and the first job assignment I had was working with young girls who were pregnant. That school was Coronado. I had a huge, I didn't want to go there. And when I got assigned there, I said, why are you sending me to a school? I want to go to a big school. I want a lot of people in my class. And they said, the principal at that time was from Bowling Park. She said, I really feel like this would be a good place for you. So I went, and well, it was because I was a teenage mom, so it made sense. So I could relate to the young ladies who I would instruct. And what I learned, the power of having a voice and being an advocate and being an activist was really cultivated in that place. And in that place, because these young girls were so marginalized that they gave them a little school, they didn't necessarily do the things that was necessary to maintain the school, but for many of the girls and their parents, their voice was limited. It had been silenced. They weren't able to articulate their needs. They were just happy that there was a place for their children to go to school. And so I said, this is not good enough. And so we went to city council meetings, we went to school board meetings, we met with the superintendent until we were able to bring things to Coronado that all the other schools had. So they had a student government association by the time we were done. They had a support group by the time we were done. They were able to participate in science fairs, which is something they weren't able to do. All of our teachers were able to attend the teacher meetings, which was something that they could not do prior to a few of us coming together and putting our voices together and our hearts together and the desire to see people treated fairly. And so it's been embedded in my heart. Of course, everybody is not designed for every level of activism, but being able to choose what you are designed to do. Because everyone, let me ask this question. How many of us in the room consider themselves an activist? Okay. Would anybody mind sharing why they consider themselves an activist? Just one person.
I consider myself an activist because I'm active, number one. In my community, I have an awareness of my community, and I found what I need to do, the role that I need to play based on my path. And my path is hip hop. Hip hop is misunderstood. We'll learn about that a little bit more today, but that is my role in activism. Hip hop and how it should really look and what it should really be doing in our community. So that's where I'm active at.
I love it. Thank you for sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
Now I want to use another word. They really go hand in hand. Advocacy. Does anyone in here consider themselves an advocate? So if I could get from one of the sisters, why do you consider yourself an advocate, if you don't mind sharing?
Because I have been given a lot. Like you, family, parents, my dad's over there. I was given a lot, and to see other people and women, I started out as a breast cancer advocate. Black women, we die more, unnecessarily. So it is now my passion, and I actually work in public health now, long story how I got there. But the way Black people are treated, from people of color, because of your color. And we have to, it's still a long fight.
Yes.
Black women, not only do we die from breast cancer, bringing people into the world, bringing these babies into the world, we will die if you don't have an advocate or someone to speak up for you. And it doesn't matter how much money you have. It's across the board. Black women are just dying because they don't listen. So it's up to us to assist those who don't have a voice, and if you have a voice, use it in a positive aspect, not just to hear yourself talk. You have to make those changes.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for sharing it. Thanks for the work that you do. So let me go back. I'm a teacher by profession. I have been teaching since 1995. So it is almost abnormal for me to not have some type of visual aid when I talk about any topic. I'm going to share with you a portion of what we call our youth leadership training. It is youth engaged in social justice and service. What my hope is that for our seasoned advocates who are in the room, that you will be motivated just a bit to continue the good work by seeing a very simple strategy that we use, practical strategy that we use with our youth. And for our younger people who may not be engaged just yet into any level of activism or advocacy, that you'll be motivated and encouraged, and that you'll realize that no matter where you are, no matter how old you are, you have a voice. And there is something that you can do with that voice, and that your voice shouldn't be limited to what you can do for yourself. So that is the goal of what I'm going to share. So you know a little bit about me because I did move ahead. You know that I grew up in Bowling Park. I was fortunate enough to be raised in the household with my grandparents. And that was such a huge blessing to me. I was an only child. So I was able to get the love and the attention of my grandparents, all of my aunties and my uncles, because as an only child, I was also the only grandchild at the time in the household. I grew up in a community where at the time, there were things that we witnessed as young children that we should not have witnessed, but that was many years ago. And so when we look at our communities now and we see how much worse it is, it's so troubling. And that's why I say that there is room for everyone to serve in some capacity of advocacy and activism. I am currently a homeschool mom because even though I fought really hard. I fought for many years in Norfolk Public Schools as a history teacher to incorporate African American history. I was the only teacher at some point teaching African American history. I had to fight for that. I was one of the only teachers fighting to even have African American history included in our curriculum when the standards of learning said not so.
Wow.
I was one of the only teachers in Norfolk Public Schools who was teaching true history instead of the distorted history. And as our MC said earlier before I came up, you become a target. So I got shifted to so many different schools because I was a rebel rouser. I was a system disruptor, and they didn't like that because I questioned the things that didn't make sense to me. And I passed that gene on to my daughter. I have to tell you, she's a lawyer. I have to tell you stories. I was a teacher, I think, just to help get her through school because I was called into so many meetings because the teacher would say, well, she told me that this wasn't right. Well, it wasn't right. It's not accurate, and we can sit and we can have a meeting. Very outspoken young lady, as all of my children are, so it made sense. So I left the school system, began homeschooling in 2009. This is a traumatic experience I'll share, but I won't go into details. But in 2009, my 4 children and myself lost, he was the father of my children, my former husband. He was murdered in Virginia Beach. He was born in Brooklyn, New York, in the same place Biggie Smalls grew up. And so he came to Virginia, of course, expecting to live a safer life. And we were actually doing an advocacy event. I came home and he went back out to see the Yankees play, and someone was trying to rob a family-owned business. They were good friends of ours, and he stood his ground. He was 6'5". He was a strong, powerful man, and he took out in a physical fight 4 guys, and they emptied a clip in his back. And so that fueled my fight even greater. And so my focus in the last 15 years has been advocating and serving as an activist for women and children who've been impacted by trauma. Trauma is a huge, broad word, and it's still very misunderstood. But most of us, I would venture to say all of us, have had some exposure to at least emotional and psychological trauma in our lives. And when you look at it statistically, as my sister stated about breast cancer, the same is true with minority, women, people of color. We are affected more adversely than any other community because of a lack of resources, even sometimes a lack of the ability to speak up for ourselves. Going into the doctor's office, knowing that there's something more that you may need, but you aren't able to articulate. I have worked with parents through the organization to advocate for their children who have IEPs in the school system, whose children have been labeled as bad kids or having ADHD before you've tried anything else. You're just assuming that this is the problem, and some parents don't have the education, the awareness, or the ability to articulate that this is not what I desire for my son. My son does, or maybe my son doesn't need an IEP, but he needs a 504 plan, and being able to understand that. So that is the work that we do now through the organization is Hearts Full of Grace. We do many other things, but that is one of our focuses, is advocating for women and children who've been impacted by trauma. So again, I say to my seasoned activists, I hope that some of the strategies I shared that we convey to our youth, I hope that it will resonate with you. I'm sure you will hear some of the things that I say and you'll realize, oh, we do that already. And I know you do. And I appreciate all of you who have walked the path of activism before my time in different areas, because we all have different areas that we're called to work in, and we can't work in all of them. We have to know where we're most suited and serve in that capacity. And then to my younger people, or maybe even older people who are not actively serving in the community, there will be something that inspires you. So I'm a teacher at heart, so I use acronyms oftentimes to convey whatever the lesson is. So we take activism, and we have a word for each, but I'm going to, because of the time frame, I'm going to just do the first 3 letters. We're going to take ACT, and I'm going to share with you what we share with our youth, who are in our youth empowered to have social justice and service in our program. And our A starts with understanding that we all need an awareness. We all need an awareness of what's going on around us in our communities. How else can we impact change if we don't know what's going on? I talk to people all the time who say, I don't watch the news, I don't listen to the radio, I don't read the newspaper. Well, we have to find a trusted source so that we will know what is going on, so that we will be aware of what's happening, and we will know how we can actively enhance our communities. We also have to settle on the action that we want to make. So for all of my people in here who are 17 and under, is there somebody who would like to share one thing that they feel goes on in their communities that they wish they could see change? Just one thing. Anybody want to share? You don't have to. 17 or under. Josh, you have one thing?
Yeah, I guess so.
Stay right there. What do you want to see change? Never mind. You want to think about it?
Yeah.
You take.
There's still some racism that still goes around.
Okay.
Things to change that.
Racism. We'll stick right there. That's good. So that is my son. He was. I had to advocate for him. He was born with a speech and language disorder that was a result of our traumatic experience, and so they wanted to do things in school that I wasn't standing for. That was another reason I was so committed to education. I was at every IEP meeting, and I said, oh no, this is not what you would do, but this is what you will try. And then I ensured that I was placed in the schools where my sons went, so that I could pop in to the classrooms and say, oh, you will, one thing you won't do is get rid of me. I'm here to stay, and you will see my face. So racism, that's
my babies.
What? Right, I did. I did. They were such good kids. So being aware that racism exists. And so as a young person, of course, that's a broad topic. But as a seasoned person, that's a broad topic. But thinking about one action that we can take to minimize the impact of racism, even if it's just talking to your peers, or even if it's just the homeschool world has introduced me to a lot of non-melanated individuals that I probably would not have come into contact with had I not been a homeschool mom. And I have been able to, I have gotten kicked out of co-ops. I have gotten kicked out of prayer groups. Because, because they were like, this girl is too radical, but it's not about radical. It's because you're not aware and you're not ready to be aware. But at least I'm going to leave you with this thought. So that at some point, so choosing the action and the activity you want to focus on. So maybe let's talk about some of the activities we can focus on. So I know a lot of you didn't say anything as younger people, and I understand being put on the spot and asked to stand up is a huge ask. But from what I know from the children that we serve, there are issues with poverty in some of our communities. There's the huge issue of gun violence in our communities. There is the huge issue, I talk to young ladies all the time, with colorism. And especially for my younger people who are here, not understanding what colorism is. Does everybody, let me ask that question. If you're 17 and under, do you know what colorism is? You can just say yes or no. Yes. You want to tell me what it is? Tell me.
It's when somebody is being named because their skin color
Absolutely. Thank you, my young sister. Very good. Very good. So, even if it's colorism, so I am, as you can see, I'm a light complexion young lady. And my daughter, who is 30, is a darker brown. And all my life, as I was mothering her, I would go places, and people would insult me, and people would say, "That can't be your child." Literally, people would assume she was not my daughter, and she looks like me based on the color of our skin, and that's a real issue in our communities. Yes, sir.
I think it's important to specify the definition. It's particular to dark-skinned people and not the other way around.
So yes.
I need
Okay.
people to understand
Okay.
that it's
Okay.
wildly important that the other way around does not
Yes.
exist. It's not a definition. It does not match the definition
Right.
of colorism.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So and I do agree that it should. So, but is everyone clear on that? Because yes, sister.
I'm sorry, I'm just.
No, don't be sorry.
I'm gonna disagree just a little bit.
Okay.
I have over 25 years in child welfare field, and I know light-skinned girls get all kinds of, yes, ma'am, because they're not black enough.
Absolutely.
You know, so I'm not sure about boys, because I spend most of my time with girls, but I shouldn't say that, because I used to have, their son.
Right.
Right,
Okay.
who was treated the very same way. And I
Right.
think that, we cannot draw that line between our children. Because if we don't hold the line for them, light or dark, who will?
Who will? That's good.
So
Thank
on
you.
both sides.
Thank you. Thank you for that. I love interaction. I really do, because I get value from hearing what you all are saying also. So the point that you brought up has been an open debate across the tables, and it has looked just like that. So from our darker complexion women, many of them feeling like the colorism is primarily focused on them, but women who look like myself being able to say that we have had similar issues. Now, in talking to a daughter and raising a child, I can say for her, some of her issues have been at some points more complex than some that I've faced, but I don't believe that it completely eliminates either.
Right.
Either. So, but can I safely move on to the next thing? So, I want to safely move on. Terrain, did you want to share something, son?
Yes. A topic like that modern society really does face, and it's kind of like gun violence, like all sorts of evil, is like mental issues. And one, I don't really believe in like evil is just born just because we're born. Like darkness takes time to grow and have time to abuse of parents, like traumatic responses, like have time. People always just see bad people, just bad people. Like there's a lot more layers to it than just, oh, this guy's just bad, this lady's good. Like no, it's like have you ever looked at someone and realized that sometimes they might need some help? Like a lot of people just say because it's sort of being down like horribly because they did a few bad things. It's like it's just like responding to all the traumatic response, and like a lot of people see it as just a simple thing, but it just it's just like a character in the story. There's supposed to be layers to it. You can't just see just one simple thing and expect all the good to happen out of it, because like it can bite you really hard sometimes if you don't really take the full knowledge of it, get into it.
That's good.
Yeah.
Thank you. So you should know that that's my other son. Okay. So thank you for sharing that. Wait.
Okay.
So that was good. Mental health also being an area. So if we were to just choose one of those things, and there are many others, but if we were to just take one issue that really concerns us, like when I go to school every day, this is the one thing that really bothers me. Maybe it's bullying. And then determining as a younger person, what's one thing I can do to make a difference? What's the one thing? I see this kid every day, he gets joked because his sneakers are not name brand, or because his clothes don't fit well, or maybe he doesn't smell well. What's one thing I can do? And that falls under the A. There's the awareness, there is the action that I want to take, and there is the activity, which is what I'm going to actually do. Maybe you go home and you say, Mom, can we talk to his mom and buy him a new outfit? You know, that's something that you would think about and think through. But having the awareness that things go on, and we are in a society a lot of times where we are closing our eyes and we're laser focused on certain things because that's safe. If I don't observe what's going on around me, I don't have to say anything. So that means I don't have to have a target on my back. I don't have to be the one standing and debating and arguing, but it's not safe any longer for us to operate that way. So that's the A. The C in ACT is understanding that it takes courage. Like for the young lady who spoke and my two gentlemen who are younger in the room to stand up and speak before a crowd of people who you don't know, you've never met before, you're not familiar with. So does the act of advocacy and activism. It takes courage. And I do believe you can be taught to be courageous. I also believe that in some of us it's just instilled and it's just natural because that's what we came from and that's what we witnessed, and those are the people who walked with us. But to say, I want to make a change, it takes courage. I had a teacher, I got tons of stories, but I had a teacher at Norview High School. I should probably be in one of the yearbooks. I got suspended 5 times one year, and they were all related to advocacy. I got suspended if somebody came to me and said the teacher didn't listen to me when I said somebody was cheating off of my paper. I was going to that classroom, and I was causing disruptions throughout the hallways and in the buildings, and it got to the point where Mr. Delk, who was the disciplinary specialist, he knew my family. He called one of my aunts. He said, we are going to put your niece out if she gets suspended one more time. And I did. I ended up having to go to Lake Teller. But I had to be courageous to do any of that. And that's not always easy as young people. So having people in your life who say to you, I support you, you can do this. Community. Like, this is a beautiful example of what community looks like. But understanding that with community, it takes collaboration. That we are not designed to exist individually and as an island. Like, no major change is going to occur if we try to do it independently. And I know sometimes it gets discouraging when, like, I want to see change. I want to see something happen. I want to disrupt this system. This is a system that's been operating this way for centuries and is just not fair. And we cannot do it alone. I say that to my daughter oftentimes. She is the only woman of color in the law firm she's practicing in Maryland. And every day she tells me a story of how she's treated, of how she feels. And I tell her, it's not you can fight in different ways. You may not be the one who's meant to like completely uproot all these years of injustice within this system, but you can write about it. And your writing can go to other women who are experiencing, other women of color who are walking into corporate America being the only person of color. Your writing can inspire women right now. So finding the way that you are going to collaborate and utilize community to advocate for those issues and then become an activist. And then the T is for time frame. Change takes time. And so understanding that we won't just naturally say, I want to see Black history incorporated into the SOLs and expect that it happens overnight. And a lot of times with us, like people say, like we are a microwave society. We want things to just happen. Like the minute I say I want it to happen, I need change to take place. But creating a time frame and being realistic about it. Like before this year is over, as a young person, I want to see my history teacher teaching me about some of the most famous women from the Civil Rights Movement, for an example. I don't want Black history to be limited to Black History Month, for an example. Maybe I can start a Black Culture Club. Just maybe. I can do something like that. And that takes time. So understanding that it doesn't happen automatically, young people, there needs to be a time frame. So you say before the year is out, I want a Black Culture Club established at my school, and I want a safe place where we can learn about our Black history. Training. So there's some things we want to fight against and don't really understand how to fight against it. And so sometimes we have to invest in the training that is necessary. Like, have always admired the Black Panther Party, but I would need training to come out and partner with you all. Like, for real, you have to really train me and help me get prepared to do that. If that's my area of activism, it may not even be my area, but whatever it is that we desire to stand up for and fight for or against, having the proper training, even if it means going to the library and picking up the free book about that topic. So when you're out there advocating and fighting for it, you know what you're talking about, because people are going to test you, and people, of course, are going to say, that's not like Brother Duran, you know what he was doing, trying to test me. And then this is the last one for T. Having talking points so that your message is consistent and you're not everywhere and all over the place, because people are more prone to support you if they know that you have a solid foundation that you're standing on. And so these are the three things. We just can't change everything and handle everything, even with the community, even with strong collaborations. So establishing a few talking points. Like, if there's something in your school that you want to see done, you sit around and you think about the people in your circle and even outside of your circle who you can say, listen, aren't you tired of that nasty grilled cheese sandwich? The bread is thick and the cheese is thick. Aren't you tired of that? And if somebody says yes, so then let's start writing letters to the cafeteria manager and say, we would love it if maybe we didn't have to eat. Now, it's not going to stop with the cafeteria manager because it has to be approved from food services downtown, but that's where you can start. But every letter that you write or every person that you bring aboard, these are the three things we want to change. We want to see healthier alternatives for our lunch. We want to see fresh fruits and vegetables instead of the little fruit packs. And we want to see healthy chips in our cafeteria. And those are our three talking points. And every time we talk to a teacher who we want to come and align with us, we are saying, these are the three things we're trying to do. Will you collaborate with us? Will you be a part of our community? And then every letter that you write. So before I walk away and take my seat, I want to thank you all for allowing me to stand before you. But I want to thank you. I want to ask everybody, so what are some simple, practical ways that we can, and there's a difference between advocacy and activism. But what are some practical ways that we can serve in either capacity? Like right now, we see a problem with, we'll use mental health, maybe in our schools or maybe in our classrooms. If that's the issue, what are some practical ways that anybody who's really concerned about mental health could begin to address those issues? Just one. Give me one, Josh.
We like try to be supportive with them.
Okay, that's a good place to start. You can start by just being supportive. What's another way, sister? Wait a minute. No.
Schools have what's called a parent advocate.
Yes.
So you can volunteer to be a parent advocate, not just for your child, but every child.
That's good. That's good. Taran.
Trying to actually understand them.
Okay. So you can support them, you can listen, try to understand them. You can volunteer as a parent advocate, which takes training.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, ma'am.
Some schools even have peer advocates.
That's good. Peer advocates. What else? Anybody else?
Spread awareness in the community.
Spread awareness in the community. Thank you.
Workshops.
Workshops. Awesome. So it's not just, there are many ways. So if you're not the person who wants to stand up, or if you're not the person who wants to get behind a podium or a microphone, understanding that there are many, many ways that you can use your voice, you can stand up, and you can fight for whatever things you see, for injustice, to facilitate reform, to disrupt systems, to make changes. Yes, ma'am.
But myself, I have a podcast.
I love it. Okay.
Survive the gun violence, the impact, the agony, and the aftermath.
Wonderful.
And I also have an organization called Souls, Save Our Youth Mind.
Love it.
And I spread awareness, and I give a platform to people to know that when you're killing me, you're not hurting me.
Absolutely.
You're hurting my loved ones left
Absolutely.
behind. It's not me, I'm dead.
Right.
And people need to realize you're not hurting that person you killed.
Absolutely.
You're hurting the loved ones left behind.
So true. So true. Anything to add? Yes, sir.
Postings.
That's good. On social media? That's things
in the
like that?
community.
In the community, absolutely. Absolutely, because we kind of moved away from that a little bit, but that's such a good way to go back. I mean, I think a lot of us, sometimes we're afraid to get out in the community. A lot of times we're afraid of rejection, but that is an absolute wonderful way, especially as younger people. So I appreciate, again, you all having me here. Thank you to my sister Nadia for allowing me to share this platform with you all, and thank you for welcoming myself and my sons into your space.
Thank you. Appreciate you. Thank you. All right, that's gonna be another tough one to follow. And I just follow behind her. Also, want to acknowledge, I think we know in most movements, a lot of times the women, specifically black women, have been the glue. This community knows if it weren't for Sister Clara Muhammad, who knows if it would have stayed connected, because she was the glue that made sure the Nation of Islam very early kept going on. We had the Black Panthers in here when the brothers were getting locked up. Elaine Brown kept the organization afloat. She handled business, so it's been very important. Ms. Cleaver too, those sisters really held down the organization when the brothers were locked up and on trial, and it kept the Panthers moving forward. So always a big up to the black women of America for holding the country together. But we're talking right now specific these organizations, but have held the country together quiet as kept, if you really know the truth. So so we're gonna break it up a little bit right now. Sister Tia is gonna come up here to do the "Who Am I" quote, and so she'll do her quote, and then raise your hand, I guess, yell it out, whatever. If you know who it is, as she finishes the quote, and then we're gonna move on to some brothers with do for self programs. So come on up, Sister
Assalamu alaikum. Success is to be measured not so much by the position that one has reached in life, as by the obstacles which he has overcome while trying to succeed. Who am I?
Tia. No, not you.
Ding, 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 ding.
Should I tell y'all?
No. Male or female? Give me a clue.
Male.
I'm gonna give a guess.
Okay.
Nelson Mandela.
A little bit more clue.
Barack Obama.
No. Do you want me to read it again?
Read it again.
Yeah, read it again. Read it again.
Add some more to it. Yeah.
No, you don't want to.
Okay. Success is to be measured not so much by the position that one has reached in life, as by the obstacles which he has overcome while trying to succeed.
I didn't. Somebody back there. No, she said it was male for sure. Definitely a male.
Other clues?
That's right.
There we go. I am. Okay.
Pump it up.
while we're doing the Who Am I, Sister Ayana wanted to come up and add some context to the
Quote
Haile
about-
Selassie
yep.
quote that Brother Kareem read earlier. So you come on up and definitely want to give all the context and understanding we can on everything we're sharing today. And so as we go along, if anybody has any questions, feel free to ask them. And then when we're back in there and on breaks, have building sessions with each other and, keep going deeper.
Can I talk without being on the camera?
Certainly. You can talk from right here.
Fair. So that, Assalamu alaikum, everyone. My name is Diana Miranda and I live in Baltimore County, Maryland. I came down here to visit the community. I've come down several times. But I was speaking to the gentleman right here. What's your name?
Jason, Facts, they call me Facts.
Jason, Facts. And when the quote was read about Haile Selassie, I did not know that was a quote because I was not aware of how good his English was. And he was explaining to me that Haile Selassie had been educated in Europe. So I turned to him, I said, well, did you know who Haile Selassie's pilot was? And he's known as the Brown Condor. His name is John Charles Robinson. He is a he was an Army veteran and did participate in World War II. He's from Biloxi, Mississippi, and he was one of the gentlemen who encouraged the Tuskegee Institute to start a pilot program for African Americans. So I was just saying that, and he would get the materials to make his own planes and make them flight ready. So there's a whole book, it's called The Brown Condor. It's written by a gentleman, I think his name is somebody Simmons, but you can purchase this book on Amazon. The Brown Condor, The Forgotten History of an African American Fighter Pilot, and the author's name is Thomas E. Simmons. So this is an important history, and he wrote this book, he said, because this is African American history that has not been taught in the schools. So he learned that this John Charles Robinson was from Biloxi, Mississippi. He learned that, and that's the same town that he was brought up in. He said, why is this not taught in schools? And there's a saying that if you want to hide information from people, put it in a book, right? Specifically, brown people. Right. And I heard so many stories today of people saying, I couldn't leave the house until I read the encyclopedias. I was a mom that took my son to the library. We read so many books and we had discussions, about what he read and what did he think. I was also one of those mothers. Now my son, he does not like to read books. But you have to instill it in the young people that reading is so important. The first revelation in Islam is Iqra, read. And we also know that that history is people reciting. Iqra, it can be read first and then recite second, right? So I just wanted to say this about John Charles Robinson, that he was one of the people that encouraged Tuskegee Institute to start a pilot program, and he was one of the teachers in the early times. So he is considered to be one of the early Tuskegee Airmen, and he was also one of the pilots in the Ethiopian Imperial Force, and he actually died in a plane crash. If you read the book, you'll find that out. Trying to deliver supplies for the Ethiopian Imperial Force. So that is just a part of it.
Thank you very much. I just thought it was some information we needed to know, for certain.
So we're going to get ready to move on to the next part of it, which is the do-for-self entrepreneurs. And if I can tell a quick side story, one of the closest friends I have in the world is a brother named Stefan Muzan, who lives in Newark, New Jersey. He's from Elizabeth. He grew up in the nation, so he's my age, so he was born in the late 60s. He grew up in the 70s, went to schools, everything was strong. You had your cleaners, your bakery, all that stuff. Everything was self-contained. His father was a maintenance man, and because he was doing for self, He would go fix people's refrigerators, air conditioners, and everything. Well, he would take, Fuquan told me he would take him every time. They could go to work with him, learn the work ethic, right? So now Fuquan is like one of the biggest lawyers in all of New Jersey. Like, people seek his aid and counsel on high levels. But what he told me was his father did that so much and worked so hard. When he returned to Allah about a year or two ago, when they went to his house, they found in his house, he didn't keep bank accounts, they found hundreds of thousands of dollars in his house. That brother went out every day and fixed somebody's refrigerator, fixed somebody's air conditioner, whatever. And he stacked that money. He said, well, we went in there. He basically had hundreds of thousands of dollars under his mattress because he did for self, right? Wow. And he got that from the nation. And Brother Fuquan has told me, we're very close right now. Oh, I'm lucky. My son is here. Yeah, so Brother Fuquan told me he got that work ethic. He also told me, so when he first came across me, he was coming out into the nation, into Al-Islam. And so when the brothers introduced him, he's like, man, what y'all doing hanging out with this devil? What's going on? Right. And now we are brothers. We are close. We are the best friends ever. So, as he came into that, but he taught that, he got that lesson from his father. But what he told me was, in that, he said, white people had no effect on how I looked at the world. They didn't bother me. And he said, even when I got to high school and I had to be around it, he said, I looked at them like I can beat them at anything. I'm smarter, I'm faster, I'm strong. These dudes can't do nothing to me. So I think, should have value in what the nation taught and the do for self portion of it. It created people like that, brother. So the sons of these brothers sitting right here have that in them. It's inside of them. Sometimes it doesn't come out, sometimes it does, but it's there. And that is one of the strengths that this community, I think, has given to the world and specifically to Black Americans. So I just wanted to make that little side note before we get ready here. We're going to have some manifestation of that do for self mantra. And it's, we're going to have Brother Kareem Aziz and Brother Abdullah Mahdi, right? I'm saying it right? Mahdi. And they're going to come up, they're going to tell you a little bit, probably how this came to them and what they've done with this knowledge of do for self. So the brothers will come up and give their presentation.
Assalamu alaikum, I'm Kareem. And as the brother was saying, I'm one of the brothers that came up during the Nation of Islam days, and you've been hearing a lot, the word phrase, the nation, and part of doing for self back then it was trying to build a nation, and in a nation you needed all types of businesses, and that's what they did. They created, schools, hospitals, all types of places of business. And I came in the nation when I was 18, and in my early 20s, I had started my own business. I had a chain of ice cream trucks. Started off with one and just added on one at a time. And but yeah, back then it taught doing for self, and it taught you how you could start a business if you didn't have no more than a bucket and a water and a rag. You could go around and just wash windows, So you didn't like really need a lot of money to go in business. And even like now, if you just have a vehicle now, you can do Uber driving or deliver package for the stores, that restaurants that had carry-outs, and so it's all type of ways of starting, your business, starting a business and doing for self, and doing for self, not necessarily working for yourself. Back then, it taught if you was on a job and you was able to save money every week and not spend every dollar that you spend, what people call working paycheck to paycheck. If you was able to save money, even if you're working for somebody, that's doing for self. You know, if you saving money, not spending every dollar you get at every paycheck, then you are really working for self because you was able to save. You know, so it's all types of ways you can do for self besides except working for yourself. You know, but yeah. From ice cream trucks, I was able to start, you know, doing construction type work, which was like buying rundown houses and going down to the city. You can go down to the city and buy houses when they auction off these houses from the city, and you can start business by, you know, doing things like that. So it's all types of ways you can do for self, you know.
Assalamu alaikum. Can everybody, can y'all hear me?
Thank you, brother.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam. You good? Yeah, we got you.
That means peace be unto you, means God's peace be unto you. In the Muslim community, we believe that every creature in his quest for life is looking for some type of peace. And so we extend the greetings, Assalamu alaikum, meaning God's peace be unto you. Because again, we believe that every creature in his quest for life, he's looking for peace. And we also know that there are many different types of peace. But we believe that there's only one true peace, one absolute peace, and we believe that's God's peace. So we extend those greetings, and we feel like those greetings are most fitting for the whole of creation. My presentation is going to be in two parts, one centered around my family and the other centered around my journey to Islam. I grew up in a business family. My great-grandfather, I never met him. At the turn of the century, from 1899 to 1900, he owned about 300 acres of land, and he was a successful farmer, a construction worker, and a mechanic. And don't ask me how he did it in the time that he came up with. And on this farm, he had Caucasians working with him on the farm. And again, don't ask me how he did it during that time, but he did it, and it's documented. I've seen documentation of his achievements through his will that went on down to me and to my children. No grandchildren at the time the will was presented. But we come from a grassroots family that believed you jump in with both hands and both feet. My family didn't have a lot of education, but they had a lot of drive. They had a lot of willpower. And my first experience with any type of business at all, I was like 7 years old. It was right here in Tadmor, in Portsmouth. I had a paper route. And remind me, this was in 1962, at 7 years old. The publisher would set the papers out on the corner at 4 o'clock in the morning. So I would be there either at 4 waiting on him or shortly thereafter. I had my bicycle with the basket on it, and I would take the papers and configure them in a way that you could dispense them to the recipients with rubber bands and that type of thing. And it would take me about an hour to do that. It took me about 2 hours to run the route. Now, this was all through the year I did that, but in the summertime, not only did I take papers, I had a lawn care route as well. And at the end of that route, I went and shined shoes in a barbershop. Back in those days, in the early 60s, businesses stayed open late. The barbershop stayed open on Saturday till like 11 o'clock at night. The men were trying to get their hair cut for Sunday service, and they wanted the shoes shined, right? And that was a marquee during our time. Your appearance was everything. And I never get the first time that that I came home with the money. My mother asked me, she counted the money, and she said, boy, she said, you made all this in one day? It was $40. Mammy, this is in 1962. $40. $40 like
that was good money.
$1 million today. She said, boy, you made all this money today? And I said, yes, ma'am. She said, you made double of what I made. You made in a day double of what I made in a week. Some of the older ones, y'all remember when the employees paid the employers paid the employee back in the 60s and 50s? They gave you a yellow envelope with all your deductions, well, with your wage rate, the hours, and all the deductions, federal, state, and all that type thing. And then at the bottom of it was your net pay, and they paid you in cash in this envelope. I know some of y'all probably remember that. Don't act like you just born yesterday. Picking on Eric. But anyway, so I couldn't understand. She was trying to get me to see the entrepreneurship in it. I didn't understand it. I said, well, Mom, I said, how is it that you work and I work, but you claim I'm making more money than you? And she was trying to explain to me that she was working for someone, a proprietor, and that proprietor had responsibilities as far as the building, his utilities, water, lights, and all this other stuff. And he had other people to pay. She said, you're independent. You don't have anybody to pay. So all the proceeds go to you. And it took me a while to understand that. But I started understanding clearly, this was in the summertime, I started understanding a little bit more clearly when school time came, because she would take my money and hold it for me. She would give me a portion of it for me to spend for myself, and she would keep the other part. And when school time came, I was able to get more of the clothes that I wanted for school because my money was buying them. My other siblings would only get what she could give them because her money was limited unto them. But at the same time, she warned me. Now, she said, you can get all these things you want because this is your money, but now the more money you spend, the less you'll have, for later on. So that's when I began to understand the empowerment of earning for yourself, because you'll be able to do more for yourself. And I felt stronger and more independent. And mind me, this was 7 years old. I did this from the time I was 7 until the time I was 13. I moved to Philadelphia. I worked with 3 of my uncles. They had migrated from the farms of Lumberton, North Carolina. This is where the family origin was. Lumberton, North Carolina. They had migrated from there when people were doing the industrialization era, when people were migrating from the rural farms of the South to the city for industry. They went to Philadelphia and set up shop there in their own businesses. There was 3 of them. One of them was a cement mason contractor, and the other 2 were, they ran an auto repair facility right there in North Philly. So I went from one to the other 2, learning both trades. The one that was a cement contractor, I learned how to pour concrete and finish it, and learn how to do siding on those road buildings up there in Philadelphia. I think they call it stucco now, but during those days it was actually cement siding. And I left Philadelphia. I want to journey to I want to take you to my first experience in Islam. The ones that owned the auto repair shop, I was working with them, and they fixed all types of stuff: cars, trucks, industrial equipment, construction equipment, all type of stuff, motorcycles, boat motors, all this, any type of machinery. So one day I was out and I was eating a sandwich, and the Muslim brothers would come by. They were selling the Muhammad Speaks and the Whiting H&G fish and oils, not oils, incense and bean pies. And for those of you that don't know what Whiting H&G is, I'm sure everybody knows about whiting fish, but H&G was the headless and gutted fish. That's what H&G stood for. That was a specialty of the Muslims. Honorable Elijah Muhammad, he taught us to eat the whiting fish because the whiting, he swims at the higher tier of the ocean, and of the Pacific Ocean. And he said that the term Pacific in Spanish means peace, and Islam is a religion that advocates peace. So that was, so symbolically, he was telling us that this food is of a higher tier or of a higher nutrient base for us because of the way the fish, the habitat of the fish. But anyway, I was out eating a sandwich, and the Muslim brothers came out and they said, peace be unto you, brother. They said, man, you need to put that pork chop sandwich down and come wait for the messenger. I said, who was the messenger? I didn't know anything about Islam. They said, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, he's the messenger of the Nation of Islam. I said, okay. I said, well, can the messenger pay me almost $50 a week? They said, well, no, the messenger won't pay you anything. Anything you earn on your own. I said, I'm making almost $50 a week here. I said, if the messenger can't top that, I need to stay where I'm at. So then they went on with they started talking about the Asiatic black man, the maker, the owner, the cream of the planet Earth, and the God of the universe, and the black woman was his queen, and they started talking about that the white man was a devil, and all this stuff, right? So I couldn't, it was a part of what they were giving me I could digest, but there was another part that I couldn't digest. The part that I couldn't digest was, so you telling me, hold on, let me get this straight. You telling me that this black man, you saying this black man is a god. You telling me that this black man, this case in my house when I leave to go to work, to try to figure out what he can get in and around it. You telling me he's a god? And this white man that will give me a job and help enable me to take care of myself and my family, you telling me he's a devil? I couldn't quite understand that. So I started buying all these books that the Nation of Islam were publishing. Message to the Black Man in America, The Fall of America, How to Eat to Live, Book 1 and 2, all by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. The 7 Speeches of Minister Farrakhan. I started buying all James Baldwin, The Fire Next Time, and Beale Street Guitar, all these books. I'm trying to get more ingrained and more in tune to Islam and black culture, black history, and this type of thing. With perchance that I would have a better understanding of what this brother was telling me, because the way it was coming over, I couldn't digest. Anyway, it took me 5 years, from 1968 to 1973, when I enlisted in the military. I was stationed in Orange County, California. And all of us were military people. There was a Muslim brother that started a satellite temple at this base in Orange County, California. Brother Tyrone X, he was a minister, and he taught me, he said, Brother Sawyer, he said, good and evil exist in all men. The white man ain't all bad, and the black man ain't all good, the way these brothers put it to me. So that's when I accepted Islam, because that was more reasonable and more suitable to my spirit, my soul, than this black man being God, and I'm looking at this black man trying to case my house and steal what I got. And the white man is the devil, and the white man's giving me a job and able me to take care of myself and my family. So anyway, at this base at California, Honorable Elijah Muhammad was still living then. I used all of what my uncles taught me in mechanic work. That was my first encounter with any type of business. But it wasn't a chartered business. It wasn't registered or nothing, because I was in the military. It was more like a hustle. I advertised in the base paper for mechanic services, and on a Saturday morning, the cars were lined up. I mean, you name it, brake jobs, tune-ups, oil changes. Back then, everything was like $15, $20. You know, and I maybe had 10 or 12 cars lined up. And at the end of the day, you could make anywhere from $100 to $150. I mean, this is in 1973. You could take care of, you could outfit a family of 4, husband, wife, and 2 young children, with food for a month, over $150 back then. So I did that the whole tenure that I was in the military, 1973 to 1976. And then when I got out of the military, by this time, the Honorable Ward B. Muhammad was in office, and I moved to Little Rock, Arkansas, and that's when I started getting my real taste of a chartered business, a registered business. Myself and another brother from Chicago Elijah Muhammad. This brother was so inspired by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad that he named himself after him. He changed his name to Elijah Muhammad. Myself and him and another brother, this is one business, myself and another brother, brother Abdul Hakim El Amin. Myself and Elijah, we started a fish restaurant. Sold fresh fish, fish meals, a bakery, and a grocery store all under one roof. Elijah and his wife, they managed I managed the grocery portion. Everything else they managed. I stocked it, maintained it, all the proceeds went to me, and the whole bit. And during this time, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was pushing that do for self. He said, we over 20 million people strong, and we don't even own a toothpick factory. So he was trying to encourage the brothers to do something. There's opportunities out here. We all use toothpicks. Open up a toothpick factory. So I was inspired by this, and when Imam Wafdi Muhammad came into office, we were starting to learn more Orthodox Islam. At first, we were learning about the black man being God and the white man being the devil. When the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, Honorable Wafdi Muhammad started teaching us about the lifestyle of the Prophet Muhammad and what he did, how he was a leader, how he made his living. So I learned that the Prophet Muhammad was a merchant. So I said, well, shoot, I want to get into merchandising. I want to be like the Prophet Muhammad. If I'm going to be a business person, I want to be like the Prophet Muhammad. So during those days, brothers and sisters, see, y'all got it made today, young people. Y'all got the internet. Y'all can go on there and punch in what you're looking for. And you can sign up to sell on eBay and Amazon, all this other stuff. Back then, we didn't have those opportunities. We had there was a register. It was a register of all the North American businesses and manufacturers called Thomas Register. I don't know if it's still out today or not.
They digitized it.
It's digitized.
Thomas
now?
Register
Okay.
has 3 scandals.
Okay, all right.
It digitized it.
Thomas Register. You can go on there and you can find every registered business and manufacturing company in the North American continent. So I wanted to sell socks. That was the thing I wanted to do. So, and the register is in volumes, like from A to Z. So I got volume H, and I looked on the hosiery, and it gives you a list of all these manufacturers that make socks. So you call them up, and you tell them who you are and what you want to do, and some of them will oblige you because, and some of them wouldn't. Most of them wouldn't. Most of them would sell to only like high-end department stores. During that time, it was Montgomery Ward, Sears and Roebuck, J.C. Penney's, and I think Macy's and Bloomingdale's and some others. You know, the chains. Some of them would oblige you as an entrepreneur, but you had to have a minimum order. And they didn't classify the socks by pairs. They classified them in lots of, in counts. It is like 1,000 count, 2,000 count, which 1,000 count would be 500 pair, 2,000 of course would be 1,000 pair. So you had to buy them like that. And we got the oils and the incense and all this other stuff the same way. We go in that register, find out the fragrance manufacturers and get all this information. And we had to build everything from scratch, and that's what we did. That's what we did. We got the socks. We got the bulk oils and incense, the concentrated oils, neutralizers, the bags. We had to make up our own labels and stuff. And we put that stuff on the market. Again, now, Honorable Elijah Muhammad is pushing do for self, do for self, do for self. I worked the restaurant and the grocery store in the day. Got a cab and drove that in the evening. Bought a heavy-duty truck and contracted with the grocery store. Back in those days, this was in the late 70s. Well, this is coming up. This is 1977. They didn't bail up the paper like they do now. They got these baling machines that bail the paper up in squares, and they sell it to the paper companies. Well, back then, the paper and the cardboard was just laid out in the back of the grocery stores. So I contracted with, it was three major grocery chains in the Southwest region during that time. Wine Gardens Grocery, Kroger Grocery, and Safeway Grocery. I got with those three companies, contracted to keep the back area cleaned up, and in turn, they would give me the paper. I would sell the paper to the paper companies, to the recycling companies, and got paid for keeping the area clean. Again, Honorable Elijah Muhammad says, do for self, do for self, do for self. All this is what's fueling me. Let's see, we ran the grocery store and the fish restaurant from 1977 to 1981. And then my partner decided to leave, moved to another city. I stayed in Little Rock for another year and finally wound up coming back here. I got back here and I had some illness in the family. My mother, she was diagnosed with cancer. My daughter was diagnosed with cancer. My sister was diagnosed with cancer. But I noticed, I want to share this with y'all. I don't want to take up a lot of time. I do want to share this with y'all. I noticed when my mother was going through her cancer treatments, I made two interesting observations. I noticed there were more young people being treated for cancer than traditionally. Back in the old days, it was always an elderly person. It was an isolated case, one way over here, and one back over there, and way over there. But cancer was running rampant, and it was affecting younger people. And I noticed there were more females being treated for cancer than males. Anyway, and I thought to myself, I said, how's all this cancer? How's cancer just running so rampant these days? I mean, it wasn't like that when I was a kid. And Allah revealed to me, He said, the cancer is coming from chemicals in the food we eat and the water we drink. Our food supply is tainted with chemicals. And I made a vow to Allah right then that I was going to do everything within my power to combat cancer. Allah blessed me to go out and I took every penny I had, brothers and sisters, every cent I had, and invested in farm equipment, trucks, trailers, tractors. I wouldn't know what a tractor was if one ran over me, but I invested in this stuff and taught myself how to use it. All the plows and the discs and the tillers and all this stuff that goes behind it. Anything pertaining to organic farming, I invested in it. And I'm still an aspiring organic farmer. I got a long ways to go, but I'm still on track. My inspiration in life was my great-grandfather and all that land that he accomplished in his time. My mother for encouraging me to, giving me the notion that you're independent. You know, you're doing better than I am monetarily. That was encouraging for me. And Honorable Elijah Muhammad kept pushing, do for self, do for self, do for self. We over 20 million people strong, and we don't even own a toothpick factory. You make a toothpick factory. You use toothpick, make one. So, I say to you all today, keep your eyes on the prize. As Spike Lee said, keep your eyes on the prize. Yes.
I just have a quick question for y'all generation, something that I noticed in my readings about y'all time. What motivated y'all to, I guess the answer is probably obvious, but I've always admired y'all generation for, you just listed 12 things you did.
Right.
In your life. Right. Okay, so what encouraged y'all generation to do that? That's a little bit different than us now, like even what Nakia was saying earlier, you know, find your niche and find your specialty, but y'all was the baker, the candlestick maker, the farmer, so what encouraged y'all at that time to just pick up all these trades y'all picked up? Cement, you did cement, grocery store. What motivated that?
I think my parents, they always taught me, they said, boy, I ain't gonna give you nothing. Anything you get, you're gonna get out there and get it. You know, that was my father, you know. And if they saw where you would make an attempt towards something, they encourage you towards that.
Okay.
But they won't, you won't gonna get that. I ain't gonna give you nothing. You better go out there and get it yourself. And the more I tried to do, the more they encouraged me. The more they encouraged me. So that gave me the sense that whatever I tried to do, I had some encouragement behind me. And my mother always taught me this also. She said, anything that you do in life at your younger age, you're gonna get a benefit from it in your older age. In other words, it's not unwarranted. It's not in vain. You know, you're gonna get some fruit from it in down the line.
Yeah.
So they encourage me to do whatever, like the army, what they said with the army, be all you can be.
All you can be, yeah. Okay.
Plus, like, you know, where I started off, they were saying during the time of the Nation of Islam, just like I said, it was the Nation of Islam, and the brothers sometimes would greet each other sometimes. You know, if you approach a brother, you said, brother, what time is it? And the brother said, nation time. And then in a nation, it's all type of things exist. So it was taught to create all kind of businesses. So that's where it kind of came from.
I appreciate y'all for that, because a lot of people in our generation want to build, and build has been turned into talking. But to build a nation, you need tools and skills and trades. So I applaud y'all generation for showing us that.
And that's another thing too. My uncle, the one that taught me cement masonry, he used to always tell that saying. He said, son, he said, you need skills that pay the bills. Skills that pay the bills. Those old people, they push us, man. They push us. They push us. And then when they saw you on a track, they push you. They encourage you.
Yeah.
Keep moving. Keep moving. So,
Okay, can I add something
Sure.
here? Now, some of the things that some of the young people may be lacking or looking for, Brother Marty mentioned some of the skills that he ran into, shoe shining and other things, and farming equipment. Those are skills that can still be used today, because if you look around, there are no shoe shine shops. And they don't have to be like they used to be. There are no shoe shine shops. There are very few tailors in our community. Right? There are very few skills that we used to, like bicycle making. Gathering pieces together, pull bicycles together.
Yes, sir.
So just from those three, if we would think about things, we can find opportunities in our community.
Yes.
I know the media and the culture and everything will take our attention, but if we kind of think about it, we can find a lot. We can find opportunities.
You go in the city right now, in the city of Philadelphia. You got young kids on at the stop sign washing cars.
Yeah.
I mean, washing windshields. They got the little squirt bottle. I mean, you stopped at the light. $1. I mean, he might make, if he stay out there long enough and there's enough time, he might make $100 a day. 12-year-old kid. I told him, I said, man, find somewhere to put that money at, and don't have all that money on you. You know, get you a hole over there and make a stash, so, you know, God forbid you get robbed, they don't get all your money. But you want to encourage them, you know, to keep doing what they're doing, but you want to let them know, you know, that there's corporates out here that's trying to take whatever it is that you earn. But that's a hustle, man.
Yeah.
It's a hustle. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just adding on to what the brother said over there, or what you guys were talking about.
Right.
I just want to emphasize this to the younger generation. Do not limit yourself to just one thing. Learn as much as you can, because one day you will need that skill.
Say it again.
Do not just because you're great at doing one thing, don't pass something else up.
That's
they
right.
really might
That's
be.
right.
No, make it your thing.
That's right.
Because you never know when somebody's gonna come calling. You know, I'm glad that I paid attention to that. Yes, I can help you. Then you pass something on to that person. And that person might go, yeah, man, thank man, because I didn't know nothing about it. Well, now you know something about it.
Good
Come over
point.
here and pay attention to what I'm doing, so you can pass that on to the next person.
Good point.
So never limit yourself to just one thing. All right? I always had the upbringing you had. My grandfather took us fishing, wasn't really my thing.
Right.
You know, I had an uncle that was a contractor. Devil in construction. I wanted to work in the office and wear a suit.
Right.
But guess what I did for a living? Construction. How about that? You learn
And you learn how to feed yourself by fishing.
Guess what? I got a big appetite, bro. I gotta feed myself. I got family to feed. You gotta think about that stuff. That's all.
One last comment, question.
Well, no, this is a question. Particularly for you, being that you say you was in the military, I'm curious, especially during that time, being that there was a heavy anti-military sentiment in the country, and being a Muslim, how did that work? Being that, you know, Islam is a religion of peace, and not to say that you can't serve, but being that during that time, that climate, it was especially even more so anti-military. how did that work, especially when it came to doing business, when you're interacting with people? What was that like during that time, journey, both as a Muslim, but also as a veteran, serving, and as a businessman? And I know that's a lot, but that just hit me when you was talking.
Well, no one can question anybody else's religion. Everybody has their right to religious freedom. That's one of the constitutional rights. So they couldn't restrict us from that. Go ahead.
No, I wasn't saying in that context. I'm not saying in the context of questioning you being a Muslim. I guess in the context of.
I think he's talking about, did you get negative feedback or resistance?
Oh, yeah.
Being both a Muslim and in the military as a black man?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But see, they didn't. The only people that knew I was a Muslim were the ones that was the administration office. You had to have your dog tags, and your dog tags had to indicate what your religion was. That way, if anything happened, God forbid, if you passed away, they would know how to handle your remains. They know, somebody would know ritually how to handle your remains. But I mean but nobody, everybody didn't know that I was a Muslim, just my close comrades, because we carried it like that. But and the administrators on record, they knew, but the people at large, they didn't really know.
Just for the sake of time, because we're gonna get ready to move in there. Yeah,
I took them all y'all time.
No, you're good. You're good.
Yeah, we have to do it though, because we got some people that need they need the
But-
area, so we may move tables around or something, but they need the television for their presentation. So what we're gonna do is move.
But real quick, before we make the move, just before we make the migration, we'll try to make it as quick as we can. Sister Brew, I want you to come up and do your Who Am I? And then we'll do that as the last thing to break it up, and then we will migrate in there as expeditiously as possible. No, you were on my list next anyway. Yeah.
Assalamualaikum. Okay, so every great dream begins with a dreamer. Always remember, you have within you the strength, the patience, and the passion to reach for the stars to change the world. Who am I?
Jesse Jackson.
Who said that? You ain't raised your hand.
Oh, that's pretty.
I'm sorry. I didn't hear what she's saying. No.
Give us a clue, Lou.
Hand over here. It's a sister.
No, it's a female.
No.
A female.
What did you say?
I didn't. I said a dude.
Yes, it's a sister.
Okay. Let's see.
Amanda Gorman.
No, ma'am.
Did somebody
Got a
say?
hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, sir. Oh, the librarian.
No, this is a random one. This is a random one.
Go ahead.
Michelle Obama.
No. I'm glad yours wasn't right. I'm glad.
Wow.
You stopped them too.
No, so you motion like that was it. You like.
I know, because that's what I said before when he answered. I said, he's the librarian.
You want to read it again?
Read it again. All right, this is it. All right. Every great dream begins with a dreamer. That's a clue. Always remember, you have within you the strength, the patience, and the passion to reach for the stars to change the world. Go ahead.
Coretta Scott King?
No. Go ahead, brother. Nope. Sister in the back. This baby in the back. What she got to say? What she say? What she say?
She said Harriet Tubman.
And she's right.
Oh, man, check that out. Check that out. Oh, man, check that out.
The youngest money in the deal.
Teaching y'all American, teaching y'all Black history, right?
All right, everybody, so we're gonna start migrating into the dining area. If you can grab a chair, grab it. If not, brothers, please start grabbing chairs and help me get them in there for everybody and go from there.